A few months back, I was validating a replacement high-voltage battery pack for my car. As part of that project, I had to get more chargers to get it done by my set deadline. I picked up two Sky RC T200 chargers from a local hobby RC shop. To use these chargers for my use case, I need a custom wire harness made that converts the XT60 connector to some alligator clips. Since custom power wires like this are quite common in the RC hobby community, I asked them to make some wires for me. I was very disappointed with the work that the employee had done. One of the things that they had done is they used a very small soldering iron tip. To put into perspective the size of tip they were using, that is an 0805 LED. This is a number 2 pencil. This is the minimum sized soldering tip I would recommend. This is the size tip that I would use, preferably. That is the wire they were using. And this is the tip they were using. It's about the same size as the pad for the 0805 LED. And comparatively less than half the diameter of the wire. The soldering tip should be equal to the diameter of the pad you are soldering. So that conical tip there is pretty close. The size of tip matters because of heat transfer. A tiny tip like this is not going to transfer enough heat into the wire, as opposed to a tip like this where it can cover the entire surface of the wire and dump all of its heat into it. Having good heat transfer is critical to avoid cold and weak solder joints. Thankfully, I have the ability to identify and correct poor solder joints, with it being a minor inconvenience. But I'm concerned for the 90% of people that don't have that skill, the ones that see the shop advertising connector and wiring inspection in addition to wiring changes to get their RC toy back, and push 40 plus amps through the connector while everything is being vibrated. A poor connection plus high current equals lots of heat. Add vibrations into the mix, and that joint may break. A broken solder joint may cause intermittent issues and may cause arcing, all of which could be a fire risk. But enough of me rambling. Let's get on to fixing the wires. So I went to take apart these connectors to redo them properly. This one has a bit of melted plastic on it and a cold solder joint on both connectors. This one also has cold solder joints and not enough solder. You can tell here the wire is flimsy. And then I went to do the alligator clip sides, and on this one, the crimp job goes into the sheathing, and it's straight up not even connected, like not even soldered. Using a pick here to get under there. Yeah, not even soldered. This one, the sheathing has been removed too far, likely due to this crimp job here. This one appears to be, can't tell if that's soldered, but looking here at the bottom side, you can see that the solder penetrated only on the top side of the wiring. You can move the individual strands of the wiring there. Meanwhile, the solder on the top side here is just like a booger. On this one, again, the crimp job goes through the sheathing and appears to not be soldered either. Maybe that one is. No, the same thing as the last one. Solder does not penetrate through the bottom, only on the top, and does not connect the wire to the connector. And then on this one here, it straight up just pulled it right out. And as you can see here on the alligator clip, there is absolutely no solder on these connectors. So, overall not impressed. I'll be redoing these properly. Out of all the alligator clips, this one was the best, so I decided to see how strong it was. So after undoing that crimp, let's try to break this. Yeah, that took no effort. That was not soldered on there at all. Let's compare that to this one that I just did. This is the one that I just did compared to the one that they did. Okay, yeah, that's not going anywhere. So I'm using a Pinecell V2 and an unknown leaded solder. Pinecell is around 350. Okay, take that out of there. Now we're going to fill the hole with solder. Clean the tip. Fill the hole with solder. And just like so. Maybe a little bit more. Nice. Going to cut the wire and restrip. Should be good. And maybe a little bit longer. Twist the wire. Hold it down. Clean the tip again. Get that nice flow. Definitely a bit on the over soldered side. Too much solder, but it'll do. I actually can probably clear a little bit of that off. And that's a lot better. want to join the two together. And that's decent. Need to add a bit of flux because of this little peak here. So let me grab the flux. And that's the flux. Take a little bit of it. Clean off the tool. And go at it again. So much better. And that's getting really hot to hold, so I'll put that back down. And I'm just gonna rip all that off. That's just shows how bad that is. Let that cool down a little bit longer before I put shrink tubing over that. I'm going to spray down the connector with some rubbing alcohol to loosen up the flux. Then I am going to use a toothbrush to work the alcohol into the flux and loosen it up. Next, I use a pick to remove all of the hardened flux off of the connector. Next, I use a cloth to remove all of the remaining flux residue. To finish this side of the wire off, I'm going to cut some shrink tubing down to length, slide it over the wire, and then shrink it with a lighter. Okay, so now to do the other side. Once again, a bit more on the over soldered side, but rather have over than under. Okay, so that's very hot. But got the solder in there. There. That. You can see all the splatter and not smoothness, and yeah.